All right, viewers, welcome to another episode from Anything About Everything. And I have with me founder, CEO of Boostaro, Seema. I've known her for almost 6 to 7 years. She's taught me a lot of stuff. I go to her on a lot of advices, even personal advices. She can attest to that. I'm really, really excited to have her on the show, and I'm going to learn a lot. I'm sure everyone will learn from this. Welcome to the show. Thanks for doing this for me, Seema.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, how's life going in Baltimore?
Cold. Life is going
Cold?
cold. It's freezing. We were supposed to get a crazy snowstorm tomorrow, but thankfully we aren't. So kids will be in school. But it's going well. Work is crazy busy, but in a good way.
Nice. When you told me about your venture, about your co-founding a company and you being the CEO, like I knew that you were starting something, but I didn't know that it was in the tech field. So I want to know, like, what prompted you to start Booster, or like what was the inception, like the idea that went into it.
Sure. So, a little bit about my background first. I worked for the federal government as a program manager and acting deputy director for 11 and a half years, so close to 12 years. And I worked in several departments, but a lot of it I worked in quality control. And the latter 9 years, I worked in ESRD. So I worked on end stage renal disease quality reporting systems. So I was never a tech major, but kind of landed in tech when I reached the government. And it wasn't somewhere that I thought I was always going to be, but somehow it spoke to me. Somehow I really ended up loving it. I really loved my department, the people I was working with, the projects that I was on. Um, and then a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I was kind of feeling an itch of, do I really want to stay in the federal government? Do I want to try something new? It was really my first job, out of getting my master's degree working for the government. So, like, I didn't have a lot of experience in the private sector at all. Um, and then at the same time, I thought, if I'm gonna have a nice job, like maybe I'll just stay. So I kind of started like digging around, seeing what opportunities were out there. And this is funny, but like I didn't know how LinkedIn worked. Like my LinkedIn was from when like years ago when I was like 21 or something. So like even my picture was from then. So I was like, let me just update this. So I updated my LinkedIn. I had no idea that people got like notifications when you update your LinkedIn. So people are like pinging me kind of like, "Oh, are you, looking for a new job?" like da da da. And I was just like, "Oh, I guess people are getting notified that I'm changing up my, my logistics on LinkedIn." So one of my old contractors that used to work for me in the federal government reached out and he said, "I started a new company. I would love for you to hear about it." Very, very vague. So I was like, yeah, I would love to. So we went out, we had lunch, just chatting about the business and, what he was doing. And at this point, I think it was like maybe a year in that he had been. Um, and he said, I've really been looking for a partner that has government experience, knows about contracts on the inside, and has knowledge, of how the government works and all of that. Would you be interested in coming on? And I was shocked because that is not the offer that I thought I was getting at lunch. I thought I was just going out for a friendly lunch. So I said, I really have to think about it. I've been at this job for a really long time and I love it. I have two young kids. So I went home, told my husband, and he was immediately excited. He was like, why would you not do it? And I was like, this is a big change for me. But so it took me 6 months, to really think about it. Had a lot of back and forth with my now business partner, Snehal. But what intrigued me, I think, about this was that it would be mine, right? So as much effort and time that I put into it is as much that I'm going to get out, right? And I think that's what really drew me to this, that if I was going to leave my very nice federal government job, it really had to be for something that I believed in. And it had to be for a company that I valued, right? Like I had to value their values and what they stand for and, their mission in the government and what they're trying to do. Um, and AI is really, I know it's the popular word right now, right? So we have to figure out how to implement AI in government, in a space that's not really adapting to AI right now, right? They're doing it very slowly. It's like a slow roll in. Um, so I don't know. I think, this opportunity kind of fell in my lap, but I think it fell in my lap at the right time. And I was in the right headspace, energy wise, everything wise, to kind of take this challenge on. And I will say that I have been loving it ever since. My 1 year anniversary is actually today, February 19th. So it's been exactly 1 year since I started this journey.
Oh, congrats. That's wonderful. And you're doing a podcast with me. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. Thanks for doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice. Like you went to think that it's a job opportunity and you were offered a partnership. Did it like I'm sure it
No,
did
I
scare
wasn't
you.
even going for a job. I was
Oh,
literally like, I haven't seen you in 6 years because he used to be my contractor. He was like, I want to tell you about my new business venture. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just thought it was like a friendly lunch. Like we're just going out, you're going to tell me about your business and then that's it.
so for me, when I think about that opportunity, especially going in as a partner, for me, you had a comfortable and a stable job, right? And going into something that you want to be a partner and start from something from scratch, did it give you a second doubt, and how did you handle that? Because that's one of the things most of the entrepreneurs really like take a step back. Should I leave everything that's comfortable and do this, or just should I continue with my comfortable and a stable job? How did you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think owning my own company was ever on my bucket list. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that I had always strived for or anything like that. But I think I just came to a point in my career where I wanted to make more of an impact on the other side, if that makes sense. And my business partner started this company in 2022. He had put a lot of hard work into it. He had gotten a few contracts, and he really had brought me in at a point where he needed someone to guide and lead the company further. Use my networks, use the opportunities that I've had in the government to kind of grow the company more. So I just think it came at a perfect point in my life where I was able to dedicate the time to this. Like I said, I have two young kids, but they're not babies, right? They're in school full time. They're self-sufficient. So I think, is it a risk? Absolutely. Owning any business is going to be a risk at the end of the day. Especially now with government contracts getting cut, with federal employees getting cut, it's a risk for everybody. But I think there's no reward without a risk, right? I think that's every entrepreneur's mindset, and I think it's something to really keep in mind because there is no reward without a risk, right? Like I could have stayed in the federal government, I could have had the same job, I could have been doing the same things, you know, had my pension, had my 401k, like had all the same things. But then at the end of the day, I think I was at a point where that's just not what I wanted to do anymore, right? I wanted something more. I wanted something that was mine and something that we could look back on 20 years from now and be like, wow, we really did this.
Awesome. I mean, I researched a lot about your company. For my viewers and listeners, like, can you give a brief intro to what your company is and what you do and how you make an impact?
So, my company is called Boostaro. Right now, we're really at the forefront of technological innovation. We specialize in AI and agile consulting, but I think for 2025, we're really trying to focus on AI, delivering transformative solutions, bridging the gap between cutting edge technology and human centered design. I think a lot, not even talking about the government, but a lot of private agencies as well. I think they're really trying to grow their portfolios in AI as well, and they're not sure how to. And I think that's where Boostaro comes in as a consultant, but also on the development end in terms of AI adoption strategies, implementation services, very specialized training programs that we have. We have a lot of AI trainings that have to do with AI in general, AI agents, also AI in the government. Using AI in the government is very, very different than using AI in the real world. So we have a lot of training programs that are tailored to our government employees as well. But we also have a deep understanding and expertise in agile methodologies, which is a lot of the work that we do right now at CMS, with our primary focus, like I said, on the government sector. So that's like a very high level of Boostaro.
Boostaro. So, say if I have a small business, can I use Boostaro to improve my processes?
Yeah, of course. Whether it's agile or not, but just the services that we implement are with agile, safe agile, the steps to make your company flow better, and do better.
And any small companies that like are new entrepreneur that's listening to this and they want to use your services, what's the best way to reach out to you? Is it only through website?
Website, LinkedIn, email, text. I mean, my phone is always blowing up. So I would say like LinkedIn has been, I mean, it's funny, like some of the deepest relationships that I've built this past year are in people that I've never met in person and that I've like grown this relationship with via LinkedIn. And, then, we've had meetings and things like that on the side, but initially met all these people on LinkedIn.
Oh wow, I mean I don't use LinkedIn as much, but this is pretty much mind blowing to see LinkedIn can bring in so much for, you
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
businesses like, to
Yeah,
approach
it
and
really can. It really can because I think there's so many different niche markets out there that people have that you don't even know of. Especially when you're writing proposals, when you're like doing this, when you're doing that. There's so many different people that do different aspects of that for you in the contract world that I never even knew existed, but is very beneficial for your business.
interesting. Switching gears a little bit to your personal life. I know you grew up
Sure.
in US, right? How was it, you know, having Indian parents and having Indian culture at home and growing up in US? How was your childhood? I'm very curious about it because I came in 2015, so I've always been curious about that.
Mhm. I had a very normal childhood. I grew up in Baltimore County. I went to Perry Hall High School. My parents, my parents weren't the typical Indian parents of, you have to be a doctor, you have to be an engineer. They really wanted me to do something that, made me happy. And I never really knew what that was. I never was like, oh, I want to be this. But in grad school, I started interning for my dad for the state at Injured Workers Insurance Fund, and I loved it. Like I loved everything about it. And I had always seen my dad going to work and things like that, but I didn't really know what he did. I didn't really know like what they did for the state. My dad was an auditor, but there's so many different things you can do in the state or government, and you don't really know what those jobs are. So that career path, I feel like, kind of led me to work in the federal government because it's very similar. And in terms of like, my work ethic and things like that, I was, I'm a girl. I always wanted to buy things. And my dad would always say, you have to pay for it. And I don't think he really thought I was going to get a job, but I did. So I've literally had a job since I was 15.
Oh wow.
And all my friends did. Like, we all grew up the same, so we've all had jobs since we were 15. And I think it really has shaped my work ethic today. Like I would go to school and I was in extracurricular activities in high school. I played field hockey, I was in cheerleading, one season each, but still class vice president. But I still had work. Like I went to work on the weekends, I went to work after practice. And I had various jobs, right? I was like a shampoo girl and I was a nanny one summer. And then I worked at a restaurant for a few years in college. And then I was a nanny in college. So I think all of those different jobs not only created a type of independence for myself, getting like having my own money, but I also loved how I got to interact with so many different people, whether it was through like a service job or waitressing, dealing with kids, dealing with parents of kids. I think that really molds you as a person. And I think when you get into these higher level positions, like it's not always about who is the smartest person in the room. It's about you as a person, your personality, how you interact with other people, how you bring other people to the table. The job, me being a CEO, I'm networking all the time. I'm networking all the time. I'm at conferences all the time. And I have built so many great relationships that have built a lot of business for our company. but that would not have happened if I didn't use those relationship building skills. But I think that really shaped who I was.
Awesome. So I read I think a couple years ago, I read Indra Nooyi's like autobiography, like she being an Indian head, like being the CEO of PepsiCo. She
Oh yeah.
mentioned she mentions like how she had to forego a lot of her personal life in order to like be in the position of CEO. And
Mhm.
did you ever feel that, like, where you say you had to, like, when, like, now you're 1 year CEO, but also you've put in a lot of time when you were co-founding it or founding
Mhm.
it with your partner. Did you
Mhm.
ever felt like I was giving up my personal life with my kids, with my husband, with my family? Like, did you ever feel that?
I think there's always a choice, right? Like I think I'm very so I think balancing motherhood and entrepreneurship is one of the hardest things, right? But it's a very
The
rewarding challenge that I've taken on. And I think the reality is that there's no such thing as the perfect balance, right? So it's being very intentional with your time. I think it's being flexible, and I think it's giving yourself grace when things don't go as planned. So guilt is something that I think a lot of working moms face, but I think I've learned to reframe it a little bit. So instead of feeling guilty for
Mhm.
working, I remind myself that I'm setting an example for my kids, right? So showing them what hard work is, passion, perseverance, what all of that looks like. When I miss a work opportunity because my kids need me or they're sick or they have a school event, I remind myself that I started this business to create a life of more freedom for myself, right? Working for myself, I get to make those decisions. Do I get to go to every event and all the things? No. There's going to be times where I miss it, where I'm out of town, or I have to go to a networking event or whatever it is. But I think being intentional with your time is one of the most important things that I've learned in this role. Um, and also, I think managing both roles isn't about doing everything. You can't do everything. I think it's about doing what matters, and I think it's about being very present in those moments. Some days are chaotic, but at the end of the day, I know that I'm building something meaningful for my family and for our future, and for their future.
Awesome. I love how you put it across. It's like pick your battles. Like at the end of the day, they just pick your battles. You cannot win everything. You cannot lose everything. Just pick your battles, and the ones that you pick, just make sure you win it and you give it all. I love the way you put it. Um, when I think about entrepreneurship, like I'm also trying to get into entrepreneurship and stuff like that. I always have this fear of, if I don't make it, I am good for nothing. Like I'll be a failure in my whole life. Like, how do I get over that fear?
So I think staying motivated during tough times in business is a combination, right? I think it's mindset, strategy, and surrounding yourself with the right people. I think as a CEO, challenges are inevitable. They're going to happen, whether it's financial hurdles, setbacks in growth, moments of self doubt, like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Like, should I have taken this opportunity? I've gone through every single thing that I just mentioned in the past year, all of it, and more to come, right? Year one, I think is always the hardest while you're trying to like navigate the new field, navigating the business and all of that. But I think what keeps me going is a mix of like purpose, right? Resilience, adaptability. Like I said, right now seeing government contracts being dropped left and right, workers getting let go, unfortunately. Um, that's scary. Like a lot of our business is government contracts. And I think you just have to take the small wins, and I think you just have to learn to reframe your failures as lessons. So, I think about it as every setback, every failure is an opportunity to kind of refine your strategy, um, build a better business, more resilient business out of it, become a better leader. I think it's very easy to dwell on those things. I think it's easy to dwell on what went wrong, but I think honestly, it's good too, right? Like sometimes you need a day when you're just like, shit. like why did all these things happen to me? Sometimes you just need that, but I think you got to like pull yourself up by your bootstraps and snap out of it and think like, okay, what's next? Because you're the leader, there's people under you. It's not like it's just you and your company. It's you, your partner, the people under you that are all looking to you for like, okay, boss, like what are the next steps? So I think really celebrating the small wins. Not everything needs to be big and luxurious, but I think you celebrate the small progresses along the way, and you just figure it out.
Thanks. That was helpful. And you talking about when you said about leadership, right? I've spoken to a lot of like my friends. Like when you think about leadership and women being in that position, there's separate challenges that comes with it. How do you like, have you gone through those, like, do you feel those challenges yourself when you're a female and then you're a CEO of a company and you're leading a company? Like, do you face those challenges?
Yeah, of course, right? I think the landscape is changing in general for female entrepreneurs, right? And I think we're living in the moment. I think the moment is now. I think the shift is happening. I see the landscape for female entrepreneurs shifting already in a powerful and transformative way, especially I think over the next few years. Challenges will always exist, right? Funding gaps, representation in specific fields and leadership roles. But I think there's like a big momentum driving change right now. I think representation and visibility is growing. You see women founders are becoming more vocal, more visible in industries where maybe they previously were very underrepresented, whether it's tech, finance, healthcare, AI. I think role models paving the way, and aspiring female entrepreneurs will be very empowering for the next few years. What else? The rise in like community driven success. I think more than ever, women are building ecosystems where they're really supporting each other, which is so huge, right? I think it's easy to kind of want to do it all or kind of want to keep everything to yourself. But when you're in this business type world, that really is not the way it works in the real world. So I think through mentorship, through networking groups, collaborations, the communities, especially woman involved communities, evolve a lot. Um, I see future of entrepreneurship as one of the greatest opportunities, for women, especially in the fields that I listed above. And I think we're seeing a shift now,
When
especially in AI and healthcare.
when I talk to other I don't know how to phrase it, but younger female entrepreneurships, like entrepreneurs, like, I don't know how to ask this question. It might sound a little weird, but the thing is, when I talk to them, they always say that they have to pick between having kids and pick between career. What is your thought process on that? Is it true? Like, is that true? Because I'm not a female, so I wouldn't really understand, like, being in their shoes. So they always say, oh, if we have a kids, our career is almost at halt, so I cannot start anything. Anything I have to plan either should be before having kids or literally after having kids, and they're put in school, they're safe space. So what do you think about that? What's your thought on that?
I think it depends, right? Like for me, I have a very supportive family. I have a very supportive husband. And I think that has made a very big difference in my career change path. Um, could I have done this when my kids were super, super young? Maybe. I think it would have been more difficult. But if I really wanted to, could I have? Probably. But I think I said this earlier on. I think you just have to be in the right headspace, right? If you're not in the right headspace to take on a new challenge, that's that's everything. Like your headspace makes the biggest difference in entrepreneurship or any job, I would say, but especially in entrepreneurship when you're trying to build a company. Like I said before, I don't think it's all or nothing. I think it's very much so being intentional with your time. I think and I think it depends on your mindset, right? What that looks like for you. Does that look like working from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day? Does that mean like, I think there's so many different variables that go into it. Um, but I do not think that women need to pick between a career and a family.
Got it. And then now that we spoke a little bit about the buzzword AI, and most of the time I also try to focus on AI, like how each industry, AI play a role in each industry or each
Mhm.
profession. When everybody, like most of the crowd at least, says AI is taking out jobs or AI is taking jobs
Mhm.
away from people, what is your thought process on that since your company is driven by AI technologies?
I think you have to look at it in a way on how AI is going to help enhance your company or enhance the way you do your job. I don't, you know, a lot of jobs out there still need that human touch, right? Um, Whether you're using AI, simple, right, to put in to ChatGPT, that's a very small scale thing of how AI is used. But there's so many different things. Like for agile, using AI to help write a company's user stories and refining them and, putting them in order and all this. Like right now, a lot of people manually do that. And that's like one small thing, right? Like I sit at my computer, I take everything out of Jira, which is what we use, and I put everything in and I just kind of I have the system do it. And then I go back and I make sure it's right, but I'm not the one sitting there doing it for hours. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's so many little ways that you can implement AI into your everyday work that will help you be more successful, that your work will get done quicker. I mean, will it take out some jobs? Maybe, right? Like at the end of the day, all the workforces are looking into minimizing workers and how, you're being more efficient. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of companies and jobs still need that human touch, that human person to work with you and what's going on and how is the project moving and all that kind of stuff. So we hear that all the time. Bustaro went to India a few months ago and we had a whole AI agile um, conference, and my business partner was the keynote, and that was a lot of the questions we got. Like it wasn't even on our keynote. It was like random questions about AI and is it overtaking jobs? Why should India bring in AI? Like, that's where it went. And we were like, oh God, this went total left field. But people people are worried about it. People are worried about it. But you know what? Let me say this. I think at the end of the day, especially for Bustaro, I think the mission for us at least is to elevate humanity through education, practical implementation of AI strategies and solutions, and that will reflect the dedication of the employee on, creating impactful digital transformation. I think at the end of the day, that is what most people want to do. I don't think at the end of the day people want their employees to lose their job. I think at the end of the day, it really is about elevating humanity and teaching them through, all the practical implementations, like the example I just gave you.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. For me, when I think about AI or anyone talks to me about, oh, we are losing jobs. In fact, my own cousins, we have extensive discussions about if AI comes in, we lose jobs. Like there's a lot of people, there's a lot of social unrest that will be caused. That'll happen. But for me, I think of it the other way. We have always have revolutions happen. It could be agricultural revolution, industrial revolution, technology, and each of them gave a race to the next
Yeah.
revolution. And all of them, there were certain jobs that was lost, but there was probably more important job that was created.
Mhm.
And one example that I always think of, or what I always mention, is like podcasting.
Yeah.
When technological revolution happened or internet revolution happened, nobody thought that a guy like Joe Rogan can sit in a room, talk for 3 hours, and make billions of
Yeah.
dollars. And that's not what I'm planning to do. But oh, if it happens, it's great. But I feel like it's gonna give in more creative jobs and Joe Rogan impact, like so something like that, which I think is gonna be the future with AI, combining with what we do right now. I meant to ask you this question probably in person too, but I'm just gonna ask in podcast. You had work from home benefits even before COVID happened, right? Yeah. Now that you're the CEO, what are your
Mhm.
thought process on work from home? Like, do you like people being more in office because you drive these kind of decisions, right? Oh, I want people to be in office. It's fine if it's remote. Like they can choose and pick and choose what they want. So, what is your thought process on work from home?
No, my people are not in an office. I will never have an overhead cost. I will never have an office. I think this is my work. Like I'm literally on my laptop right now. Everything comes in and out through here, right? Or my cell phone. Why do I need people from my team sitting in front of me? Like, like right now somebody would be sitting across from me, right? Just to say what? Oh, how's it going? Do you have any questions? Like that's I don't know. I'm no, I'm very pro work from home. I think people are highly successful working from home. I think a lot of people work more from home that they do in the office, right? You go in the office at let's say 8:30, right? You wake up, you have your commute, let's say it's 30 minutes to an hour, and then you're in your cube or whatever, you know, you're on your laptop, but then you're also like, you're being bothered by a lot of other employees, a lot of other people in the office walking around, and then you leave at 4 or 5 and you drive home and your day's over. But when you work from home, I think there's this notion of like, oh, they're always on the clock, So even I mean now is different, right? Like my phone's ringing all the time, I answer it all the time. But when I worked in the government, when I was working from home, my I didn't end my duty at 5 p.m. If people were still online or they had questions, I would still answer them. Now if I was in the office getting paid for my time only in the office, I'm not doing that. I'm shutting my laptop at 5 and I'm going home. So
Mm.
I think you have to meet people where they are. Like we're just in a time now that's modern that you don't need to be in an office.
I completely agree with that aspect of like where when I used to go and work to pre-COVID. I mean, I'm right now remote. I used to shut my laptop at 5:36, and
Mhm.
then I mean, I was still on call, but most of the time, once I shut my laptop, I didn't open my laptop. Now that it's so accessible, like I'm in front of laptop till 8:39,
Yeah,
and like still working at 9:30, and it's just like you think in your head that you're always on clock. Your home
yeah.
is your office. Like I completely attest with that
But I
thing.
also never attributed that to like something bad. I was never mad about it. I was never like, oh my God, I'm working all these hours because I was at home. I was able, like my kids were here. I was still able, even after I was off the clock at 5:30, I could just walk out, make dinner. There's so many things that you gain from not having that 1 hour commute. That 1 hour commute is a lot for one day in the morning and then in the afternoon.
Awesome. By the way, how was your trip to India? Did you have fun? Like I
Oh
forgot
my
to
God.
ask about that.
It was amazing. We had such an amazing 2 weeks. The kids had a blast. We started off in Bangalore. We stayed there for like 4 or 5 days. I can't remember. And then from there, we went to Gujarat. We had work in Gujarat. So that's where our conference was. Our keynote was there and all of that. And then from there, we went to, where did we go? Jaipur?
Is it
Jaipur, Agra,
Jaipur? Agra.
Taj Mahal, and then Delhi and came home. So it was a very, very fast trip, but we saw a lot and just had such a good time. Ate a lot, ate a lot. Saw family. We really, it's kind of amazing. We did a lot of stuff in 2 weeks. We covered a lot of ground, and thankfully, nobody got sick. Nobody, had anything crazy. The weather was beautiful. It was just nice, and it was nice to take the kids. They've never been before, and they had a blast with the animals and the cows and all of that, and staying at the nice hotels and getting catered to because Indian people are obsessed with kids. So it was great. We had a great trip. Hopefully go back in a year or two.
It was Sanya Sana's first time to India?
Mhm.
Oh wow. I thought Sanya had visited India. I don't know why. Yeah, that's
No.
awesome.
Mm-mm. First
Yeah,
trip for both of them, and it was a success, thankfully.
that's
Because
good.
like once you have a bad India trip, you're like, I'm never going back.
I remember
I
you
was
had
like,
a bad
yeah,
Indian
I
trip.
never wanted to go back. I was forced. Even this trip, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? Like, who's gonna get sick? Um, But no, it was great. And the hotels were so amazing. We never like, growing up, you don't stay at hotels, you stay at your family's house. So this was very different for us. But it was great. It was great.
Seema, knowing you, I know you're a person with vision and goals. What are your goals for your company as a CEO for next, foreseeable future for next 5 years, probably?
Yeah. I think for Boostaro for specifically, my vision, I think is to really establish Boostaro as a leader in healthcare innovation. That's really my background, and that's really what I wanted to bring forward into Boostaro when I came on. Driving meaningful change through technology, through data-driven solutions, patient-centered care. I really want Boostaro to not only grow as a company, but also make like a measurable impact on access, quality, and efficiency in the healthcare industry as a whole. I think Boostaro will continue to push boundaries in healthcare technology, leveraging, like I talked about, leveraging AI, automation, um, advanced analytics to solve any critical industry challenges. Um, but I think really big picture in 5 years, I really want Boostaro to be known as the go-to company for innovative, scalable, and impactful healthcare solutions. Whether we're revolutionizing quality reporting, streamlining healthcare operations, like I was talking about Agile earlier, which we've implemented at CMS, or shaping the future of AI in healthcare. I think I really just see Boostaro as a catalyst for lasting industry transformation. So I think that's really my 5 year goal for Boostaro as of right now. Yeah.
Thanks a lot for doing this for me, Seema. Any final
Yeah.
words to the viewers and listeners that you have?
No, I think this was great. Thank you so much for having me on. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Likewise, thank you so much again.